So we're now hopping on to episode 3 of Pulse Check. Today we have Allie Griffis with us. She is a second-year medical student. I've gotten to know Allie through the Pulse Pioneer program. She's been one of our early Pulse Pioneers and one of our most engaged ones as well. So I've had the pleasure of getting to work with her. Allie, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yes, for sure. So just like Roche said, I am a second-year student at Trinity, entering into my 4th term. I am from Eastman, Georgia, so I'm actually very close to where I'll come back and do rotations at in Warner Robins, Georgia. And I've lived here my whole life. So I'm from small town Georgia, and happy to be a student at Trinity and loving every second of medical school so far.
Amazing. As Allie was saying, she is about to get started on her last semester on the basic sciences. Allie, how's it going so far? How would you describe your experience in medical school so far?
Yeah, so terms 1 and term 2, I loved it. I enjoyed everything I was learning, but last term was when I sort of saw a change, like a flip where we're getting into the pharmacology and the pathology, and I fell in love with it all over again. So this is the stuff. This is the real stuff. We're getting into the meat of it now, and I really enjoy it. So I'm getting more used to the pace of things and working on that schedule every single day. So I've sort of learned the game a little bit better, I believe, and I'm really enjoying the pharmacology, the pathology, the micro. Yeah, it's like a new love has blossomed for it all over again. So it's great.
That's amazing. That is very contrary to what your average med students say at this point. So it's awesome that you're kind of falling in love with it and loving what you're learning. What's kind of been
I've said that to so many people so far. I hope that sort of turns out the same for the people entering into term 3. I'm like, you guys are gonna love this. So yeah, I hope that plays out for them too.
And I feel like with because I obviously remember how the schedule was, and I feel like with the schedule, it's so easy to get bogged down into like the schedule. But then sometimes it just takes like a perspective like yours to like kind of think like I'm actually learning like what I've been wanting to learn for so long, and this is really cool. So I think having that mindset's important, which you're doing a great job at, it seems.
Yeah, that's so true. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. So it seems like you're having a lot of ups. I'm sure there's a lot of downs as well. What's kind of been the hardest part so far for you?
I think it's hardest for me to get away from the books, to set aside the time I need for myself. I have to be very intentional with that because I will start studying and not stop because I want to be prepared. I'm like a person who comes in ultra prepared in every facet of life. So that can really overtake you in medical school. So I think you do have to be intentional with it and put yourself first sometimes. And finding that time to set aside for myself has been the hardest part, like actually sticking to it. But I will applaud myself because I got way better at it this past term. I made sure to take my 24 hours a week and make sure that I was, going bird watching or making a meal for myself or going out to dinner. So those things are important. And yeah, it's something that I can definitely do while I'm here at home. But being in the setting and being in the groove of things, it's hard to sort of make sure step back for a second and put yourself first.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can resonate with this, but I know like for me, I think honestly all throughout med school, maybe like not until the very end, like I would feel guilty if like I wasn't doing stuff related to med school all the time. And I feel like, you have like there's always something you can do. So you feel like you should be doing it, but the reality is just because there are things to do, that doesn't mean you necessarily should be or need to. So like, I bet you can kind of resonate with that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. The guilt will set in. But as soon as you like actually step back, like all it takes is a minute for me to just get away and say, oh, okay, I'm good. Like I've got control of this. And you flip a switch and it's like, okay, I'm cool. I'm chill. I can get away and yeah, like I know what's going on. I can take some time for myself. So yeah, for sure.
Exactly. And I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of corny to say, but like, I don't know, you kind of do need that reset. I mean, you are going to burn out. And like, if you don't make time for yourself, that's when you get into that poor perspective. You're just going to hate what you're doing and you're not going to be enjoying it. And you're going to want to wish it's over and etc. So I'm glad that you're kind of like catching on to that pretty fairly early.
Yeah, for sure. And it helps to surrounding yourself with other people who are in the same situation, who have the same habits as you. If you can sort of make that, like, lay down the law and like write it down, like, hey, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do it together. Having that accountability with other people around you has helped as well. And I think we have a really awesome community at Trinity that helps make that happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like what you said about accountability. Me and one of my best friends, Cade, we got to a point where we got called out by his fiance for essentially whenever we'd went out, like we'd kind of just talk about medicine in school. We had to like make a pact to ourselves, like when we're out, when we're out for dinner, drinks or whatever, like no talking about medicine. There's more to us in the conversations we have than medicine. So,
yes.
And we would, often hold ourselves accountable to that and saying like, hey, shut up. Like, we don't need to talk about that. Or, hey, like 5 more minutes and get whatever you need to get off your chest. And like, let's, talk about, I don't know, sports or the weather. I don't know. Anything else.
Oh, yeah. We have that same thing going on. So there's a guy in our term. He's amazing. He has this hat that he wears. And if he has the hat on, there's no medical talk. Cannot happen. Wherever he's at, if he's wearing the hat, that means we cannot talk about medicine. So I love that. I need to like get a hat or something I can wear to say, all right, if I have this on, no medicine talk. So
that's interesting. How did that start off?
Well, this guy's like the most adventurous one of us on the island. Like he is intentional and he does a really great job. I try to mimic Joey all the time in his ways of exploring St. Vincent. It's incredible. So yeah, he's just that guy that is always going to be out and doing something. And he recognized that early on, I think, and wanted to influence others around him to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And did it with a hat.
Yeah. You need like a shirt that says "Don't talk to me about medicine."
Yes.
Just walk around.
Those would probably sell very well. We could market that.
Yeah. Hey, let's talk after. And what has kind of been the highest of the highs for med school so far?
Oh, geez. I think coming to the island, I didn't expect to be received so well. You can hear it in my voice. Like I have this thick Southern accent. I have blonde hair and this bubbly, loud personality. So I thought, coming to medical school that I wouldn't be taken seriously and people wouldn't listen to me. But in every facet of being a student or being a biochem tutor or being in the hospital with doctors, I've always felt like people were listening to me and taking me seriously. So that is like a constant high point that I was not expecting to have in medical school that has come to life. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's been great.
That's awesome. I'm glad you're in a place where you can be like that. Cause I do see it as well. Like kind of stereotypes of that do exist and stuff. And even with just like, assumptions with like women as being nurses and like, just like things like that. So it's like, I'm glad you're in a kind of space where, you're being respected. So I'm super glad to hear that.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So you have one more semester left of your basic sciences. You'll get to write step 1, and then you'll be in the hospital, being a student doctor. Does that make you nervous? Does that make you excited?
Yeah, both for sure. Nervous and excited. I think that I will feel well prepared for sure to step into that facet of life because it's something that I've dreamed about forever and ever. But so I've had that like mental picture of that for a very long time. So I don't know what it will feel like, but I have an idea of what it will feel like. So building that all up definitely comes with nerves, right? The excitement is going to have nerves come with it. But I think that we'll have all the resources that I need to do well. I think that Pulse is going to come in super handy, right, as I enter this next phase and making sure that I'm spending time in the right places and connecting with the people I need to connect with. So I think that will definitely help ease some of those nerves. But yeah, I'm mostly excited for sure because I think that as it comes, I will be well prepared and step into it with mostly excitement. But some nerves are good. I've always believed in that. You need to, if you truly have a passion for something and you have all these great expectations behind it, then yeah, it's going to come with some nerves. It should be that way.
Yeah. What do you think is going to be like the things that make you nervous? Like, like underperforming or just like messing up or like dealing with patients or like, what would you think is going to be the hardest for you?
Yeah, I think that putting it simply is just messing up, right? Like I
Yeah.
know that's gonna happen, but I dread it, right? Like we all have that perfectionist mentality. Like if we want to be doctors, like that's just how we're wired. Um, so definitely thinking about messing up. But this is something that I've been warned of my entire life. My dad's a doctor. He's like, you're going to mess up. It's going to happen. It's the only way you learn.
Mm.
So sort of keeping that in the back of my mind and knowing that with every bad thing uh, that I might do or what I might mess up, I've got to learn from it in the end.
Yeah. I felt like that for a long time too. Like I am someone who's like definitely like very hard on myself to the point where it might be a little toxic. And so like if I were to like mess up, I have like fair confidence, I'd say, but like if I were to mess up, I know I'd get like really bogged down, really upset at myself
Same.
about it for a while, and like just don't want to be thought of as like stupid. But it's interesting now that I'm in like I've felt that way all throughout medicine, which like you said, nerves are good in the sense that it helps me like know how to prepare and stuff like that, but all this at the same time could also be a little debilitating. But it's interesting now that I'm in residency, there like the feeling of like really do not care what you think of me or
Yeah.
what you think of me as a doctor. Like that is just like so prominent. I literally do not care what anybody thinks of me because I am so, my entire bandwidth is just filled with I need to care for my patients and like I need to do what's best and I need to do XYZ, that like what anyone thinks is so out the window. And I am honestly like trying to mess up more just because of how like well it sticks when you have that accountability as being a doctor. So again, something I've learned very late and like I was aware of through med school and try to correct, but it's easier said than done.
For sure.
um, yeah, so I'm glad you're kind of aware of that, and you're like, you hopefully will be trying to kind of alleviate that.
Well, you don't know how refreshing it is to hear that. Like, I have that mentality, and I'm totally with you. Like, can be totally toxic about it, and yeah, totally get bogged down in my own thoughts in my own head, just for messing up a question, right? Like, that's a totally different ball game than what you're living. But hearing you say that is huge, and it's just that mentality of, yeah, having that I do not care what you think of me. I'm here for my patients. I love that you said that. That's beautiful. But I'll probably carry that with me, hopefully, for my entire life. That's huge. That's what it's all about, for sure.
Yeah, and I think like being in the setting of residency helps with that because like you do have the title of doctor and like you are signing everything as doctor, and like their lives essentially like are hanging in the balance of your hands for real.
Yeah,
And one of my mentors, one of the earliest advice that he gave me in the middle of third year is like, stop thinking of yourself as a med student and start thinking as yourself as the doctor to these patients, and like ask yourself, how would the physician of these patients think? And I would try to kind of put that in the clinical sense, but even just like with the emotional sense, it's very liberating to think so.
Mhm.
So like, not to give unsolicited advice, but that is something that I definitely highly recommend kind of carrying, and something I tell my little sister to kind of carry with her.
For sure. Yeah, go ahead and start thinking that way now. It's important to just start now. Start thinking that way, and it'll be that much easier when we get there. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Speaking of clinicals, I know that you have a pretty strong interest into OBGYN. What drew you there? Why OBGYN? Tell us a little bit about that.
For sure. So I told y'all that I'm from South Georgia. There's the y'all coming out. Rural Georgia. And I've always known that I wanted to be a doctor, right? Like this is something that I've always had in my head since I can remember. I think that stems from just watching my dad and his impact that he had and all of the relationships that he formed and the people that relied on him. I love that. I looked up to it forever and ever and ever. And then as I grew up, I guess I kind of started thinking, okay, yeah, I want to be a doctor, but geez, there's so many different ones. And then I started to understand what that really meant. And I started to ask myself, okay, I love shadowing in all these different fields. There's nothing that I've shadowed that I absolutely hated, right? Like I love cardiology, I love pulmonology, I love dermatology, all of them. I never wanted to leave the hospital or leave the office that I was at. So then it sort of came to me to ask the question, what does my community need? Where am I going to end up? And what's going to be most beneficial to the people around me? So I have a passion for women, and I've grown to know that we don't have enough women's care. There's not access to women's care. You know, there are really women here who have to choose if they want to fill up a tank of gas to get to the grocery store, or if they want to go see the doctor that's an hour away.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a real problem, and it's something that I've seen for a very long time. And I know I can step into that role and form those relationships and be the listening ear to women in rural Georgia. Is really what it all stems from.
Right. I think when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, there's this one statistic about Georgia that you brought up. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. Yeah, it never leaves my brain. It's sad, right? It's like over half of the counties in Georgia do not have an OBGYN. The county I live in, Dodge County, we don't have one. We do not have an OBGYN. So I'd have to travel about 45 minutes to get to an OB. So yeah,
which is absolutely nuts to me.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and like, you know, coming from where I come from in Canada, and I mean, even in the city that I'm at right now, like, you know, there's like, you know, I'm in Peds obviously, so there's like numerous Peds facilities and stuff like that that we can kind of send to. So it kind of sucks to hear that access is not accessible.
No, it doesn't exist. Yeah,
of the country, and I mean, we all do know that there is a physician shortage, but I definitely do agree and think that women's health is kind of up there with one of the higher needs, and you know, definitely, I would say, especially recently, could use some more advocacy towards.
Definitely. And then you get into the whole politics thing, and it is brought into women's care largely, and it's scary. So it's something that, you know, I think that I'm in a unique position where I love the clinical setting, right? Don't get me wrong. Like I love surgery. I want to be hands-on. But I also love going out into communities and speaking to large groups of people. And, I think that's somewhere we can definitely benefit in women's care, is going out and talking to kids in high schools and educating them on basic feminine hygiene. Like, these are things that don't exist that I would love to do. And, you know, I'll be trained to do one, hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah. And kind of speaking on, you know, the politics side of stuff, which we don't have to dive too deep into, but like, I feel like I can kind of resonate with that, just with like, you know, peds with pediatrics. Just like, I feel like that has taken a bit of a spotlight a little bit with, you know, just like recent, you know, political stances and efforts, whether you agree with them or not.
For sure.
And like you just mirrored, you know, similarly for women's health, you know, do you think that will have to be something that you embrace, that like, you know, some sort of political, you know, and maybe not stance, but advocacy is going to be needed for you in your career in women's health? Or do you think that's something that, you know, can remain separate and you could still provide good care? Like, you know, curious to hear what your thoughts are on that.
I think it's possible to remain separate and provide good care. Yes, totally possible. Is that something I will do? No, I will be hands-on and be an advocate in every facet and every way that I believe. Now, when it comes time to separate those things, I'm totally capable of doing that and will, for sure. But yeah, no, I plan to advocate to the fullest in those sorts of things where I'm educated and can advocate for my patient, you know, and if that need be in politics, then yeah, I'm down to do it for sure.
Right. And so if you were to summarize, you know, what are kind of some of the biggest aspirations you have, you know, for making an impact on women's health? Like, what would you say it would be?
Oh, geez. Well, I would, number one, love to open a practice in my hometown in Eastman.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully, you know, sort of be able to see and spread around to as many of these little small towns as possible that don't have care. If there's any way for me to spread out and do that, I will. And, you know, I believe in making like micro impacts. Like, that's sort of my MO. And that's is possible in small towns like I'm surrounded with literally everywhere around us in Eastman. So yeah, just working towards that and getting into like schools around in the areas as well would be at the top of my list, and just going in and talking to them about again, feminine hygiene and some of this basic stuff that people think we know but we don't, especially in rural areas, is at the top of my list.
Yeah, and I like what you said about kind of those micro impacts. This is a recent kind of discussion I had with some of my faculty here, because I spent the last 2 years in like obviously a smaller town in Georgia, Warner Robins, and at a small school. I wouldn't say Trinity is a huge school by per se, but so like I was very used to like being in a setting where like, not that I could do whatever I want, but it was very easy to see like issues and very easy to like advocate for them without flashback or anything like that, or red tape necessarily. And now I'm in a bit of a bigger institution, bigger city, and there's like things that I see, and there's just like so many layers of like red tape, so many layers of like politics and stuff like that. So one of the recent discussions we had is kind of the pros. We're talking about the pros and cons of both, but one of the really great pros about starting from kind of that smaller environment is being able to just like prototype your ideas and like really steer your ideas into the direction you want and test them out and try them out and perfect them before you expand and grow them. So I think for kind of what you want to do, I think you're in a great setting to do that, and great systems expand, and so hopefully that does expand to kind of the trajectory you want.
Yep. Fingers crossed. That's actually such a good point. And that's something I'm used to, right? I've grown up in this sort of area where my dad has definitely done that. Like he's been able, he molded his own practice for years. And it was beautiful what he did. So I hope to sort of follow that. And I enjoy that sort of being able to test out ideas exactly like what you're saying and see how it goes. That's definitely easier to get done in a rural area. Yeah.
Right. Obviously, you're still kind of going through your basic sciences, so this might be a hard question to ask, but how, like, in terms of women's health, like, what do you think about your exposure so far to it, being almost 2 years into medical school?
Yeah. So from like, as far as curriculum goes, I think that we do an okay job, right? Like, especially in physiology and specifically the reproductive block. Of course, women's health is covered. It's great. They do a fantastic job. But sort of as far as sprinkling it in over all the systems, I think we can definitely fall short. And I definitely have not learned as much as I would like to about how women present differently in cardiovascular disease or mental health diseases. It's not something that I learned as much about as I would have thought. And even like, you have like different conferences that happen that come to the school, and we get like optometry or anesthesia or orthopedics, but there's nothing that specifically comes about women's health. So I would love to see that happen more often. And maybe that can be one of my goals for the future, to sort of make sure that the curriculum is a little bit more tailored in every area to throwing in something about women and how different diseases present, or how diseases present differently in women. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I'm very curious to circle back with you once you've started clinicals, because I definitely do feel like, I mean, as a man, I will admit that I don't feel like I'm well prepared at all coming out of med school in general, just on like women's health. Like, I don't really think any other man coming out of med school is, unfortunately. And that's that's not against the school. I think that's just like the system in medicine we have right now. And I feel like in my experience, everything in women's health was just like siloed to OBGYN.
For sure.
To the point where it's like, like whatever you learn about women's health, just like grind it out for the 6 weeks of OBGYN. And then once that's over, like, you don't have to worry about it. So I'm very curious if, you think you might feel the same thing. But kind of like speaking on generalizing it amongst all specialties, like for me, as a physician now, like what would your recommendation be on like, what aspects of women's health should I be carrying with me, on a daily basis?
Yeah. Okay. So I think like very basic stuff is like contraceptive use. I think that that's something that everybody should know about, right?
Mhm.
Risks, like just all the ins and outs of that. It should be something we're all a little bit more educated on.
Mhm.
Heart disease for sure, obviously, like that's definitely gaining more speed, and I think that we're headed in the right direction, right? With cardiovascular disease in women, and there's a lot of more information available. Because it is the leading cause of death in women, right? Cardiovascular diseases. Let's see what else. Autoimmune diseases, right? It's like 80%, I believe, of autoimmune
Yeah,
diseases with
women
women.
are
Yeah,
especially more susceptible than men,
for
and
sure.
autoimmune diseases are on the rise. They have been on the rise, but are continue to be on the rise as well.
For sure. So that's a big one that I think everybody should be just you should know your way around it and just be more aware for sure.
Yeah, and I think the awareness is the most important part. Right now I nowhere close to know anything. P.S. What they say about you coming out of med school not knowing anything is very true because you don't know anything coming out of med school.
Okay.
But even just having
That's
the
good.
awareness where it's like, if I know I'm gonna go see, this patient who's a woman and X is going on, like just having the baseline awareness, I think is important. You could obviously look up the literature and whatever to help guide your management, but just being able to, you know, we have this thing in pediatrics that we say when you're talking to a kid, you kind of stoop down to their level. And I feel like
Yes.
not that it down or up matters, but being able to like get to the level of the woman and try to understand what they're going through is super important. And, not something we're best, introduced and exposed to.
Right. But people don't talk about that, right? Like just that sentence, just trying to resonate or try and put yourself in the woman's shoes. Like that sentence can change a person's mindset completely. So like that's a huge part of it too. Just literally having that thought before you go in and talk to a woman is a really good place to start.
Yeah. And I know for me as a man too, it's very helpful for me to literally just be open about it with my female co-residents and be like, hey, like, what should I be considering here? Or like, am I missing something here? Or like, this is the case. And like, what am I missing? I know that I've done that a few times so far in residency, and that's been super helpful. And so just like people even being aware that they could just ask.
Yeah, we would much rather that happen. That's fantastic.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Love
And
it.
I feel like it's like
Great.
sometimes it can become this like taboo topic almost for some
Yeah,
reason, where it's like
for
don't
sure.
ask about it because it's like whatever. But I feel like just ask if you have questions. If it's not appropriate, they'll tell you. But I mean,
Yep,
use your best judgment. But
for sure.
yeah,
That's
no big
great.
deal. But
Yeah, love it.
nice. Um, but that's awesome to hear kind of about your interests. What are your interests outside of medicine? I know from our previous conversations, I know bird watching is a super big thing that you're into. I know you have an extensive history of like pageantry and other things as well. So curious to
Yep.
hear about, Allie outside of medicine.
I love this. Okay. So, yes, you hit the big two. Pageantry is a past life, but now I am a full blown bird watcher. I love waking up at the crack of dawn on Saturdays, which everybody thinks I'm crazy for, and going out and finding as many birds as I can. So, I'm like so excited once I leave the island to calculate all of the lifers that I've gotten. So lifers are new bird species that you've never identified before. And I've seen some really, really, really incredible birds on St. Vincent that I'm so happy, so happy. It's been awesome to be able to go out and explore nature and also see some awesome birds at the same time. Yeah.
Amazing. And I will definitely say that's definitely very unique. I haven't, met someone who's been an avid bird watcher in a really while, so I really appreciate that.
That's what
And
it's people do in their in later in life, right? Like you'll be a bird watcher when you're like 60, but you can start now too. I think it's a great idea.
I will hit you up to get me
Okay.
into it and give me the
Oh, yeah,
training wheels.
for
Um,
sure.
and then I know you have a history of pageantry. It's kind of interesting because I've kind of always known you have had that pageantry background. And I've known for a
Yes.
while I've been into OB-GYN, but it was until recently when I was kind of prepping for this episode that I kind of made the connection that there's so much like parallels between like pageantry and like women's health and OBGYN. So, kind of curious what role that played with, your interest in OBGYN and et cetera.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a huge connection. So when you're entering into these pageants, a lot of times you're required to have a platform. So I, of course, chose women's health, and I really sort of honed in on access to women's care in rural areas, and it opened my eyes to the impact that I could make. Right, like I remember standing in front of like 200 people doing an interview for a scholarship about women's health, and I was answering all these questions and telling these stories, and people were crying. There was like gasps from the crowd, and I was like, okay, this is legit. Like I can really do this and stand in front of people and they're listening to me. So yeah, well, like the next day I might have been on the stage in a swimsuit and like tap dancing 2 minutes later. The day before I sat in a room with 200 people and hopefully made an impact and educated them on something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's very interesting to hear and to think back to earlier today when you were saying that coming to med school that you had this kind of like concern with just being well received, being Southern, being, blonde and whatever. Yeah, and
sure.
When in reality, it seems like that experience for you has been kind of maybe one of the best defining features of why you're going to be such a good physician. So, that's just something I'm realizing. I encourage you to have that perspective the next time you feel like that.
Yeah. Well, these things are like totally contradictory, right? Like it makes no sense to sort of overlap them, but I think that's what makes it so cool that, I could do these things. Like I could be on a stage and then speak to a bunch of people. And now I'm in medical school, sort of pursuing my dreams and really trying to make a positive impact and working in science. So yeah, it is kind of interesting to see them overlap. But it's almost like I want to defy society in a way, right? Like that's sort of one of my missions is to say, okay, I can do these things, but listen to what I have to say, listen to my knowledge, and
Right.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Right. And you also are a spectacular creator on social media as well, slash influencer. And I feel like, very early on, I've obviously studied up a lot on it being, what I do in marketing. I've given it a stab before. It is not for the weak. It is very hard.
That's so true.
Like, early on, I feel like now the rep is loosening up, but early on, I feel like just like influencing in medicine was like a very like taboo thing. Like maybe you were frowned upon early on for doing it. But now there's like more of an acceptance of like, there's so much knowledge you could be sharing, so much experience you could be sharing and whatnot. So, where do you think the role of like social media, networking, knowledge sharing, like where do you think that role has been in your life and, the life of other people that you connect with in medicine?
Yeah. Okay. So I want to start by like touching on something you said, and like the whole medfluencer thing. Like I will still get comments every once in a while about this, like, like little sly comments. And I'm like, okay, none of this matters. What your comments don't matter. The possibility of the impact you can make is really incredible. Like exactly what you said. We do have knowledge and it's worth sharing, and all the backlash is whatever. It doesn't matter. It's that I don't care mentality, and I'm trying to keep that because I think that the positivity that I've received from it is so much better than any of the whatever comments. But I hope that it continues to play a role. I want to grow it, and I want to as I grow in my medical career and gain more knowledge, I would love to see it sort of shift to making sure people are consuming good science, and I want to learn how to relay that in a way that the lay public can consume it and enjoy it. I think that will be huge. I want to see that sort of change, one day when the time comes. I hope that it's something I can continue. Yeah, and it's been great. It's a large community. People love it.
Yeah.
And it's a great place to share it, right? Like we need to be on social media. We need to, the people who have the actual knowledge, We need to put it out there because there's so much stuff out there that's just ridiculous and crazy, and you want to buy all the supplements and vitamins or whatever else is out there. Yeah, it's scary. So like we more of us need to share our knowledge and put real science out there that counts.
Right. And it's also great that it brings people together. I mean, I met you on social media. I've never met you in my life before, and even though you go to my same school, but I was long gone after you got here. But it brings people together. And even just for your future, do you think that's something that you're going to use to leverage for women's health advocacy, women's health education?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It's the easiest way to get to a large group of people quickly. And I love how fast you can get people together, and you can meet people and make those connections just like Pulse is going to do. It's mimicking the same thing, except you're so much more like just pinpointed to a specific community, which needs to happen. It's fantastic. I love it so much. Yeah, the Instagram videos, reels, TikTok, it's a perfect place to get information to people who need it. Like, yeah, these people out here in rural Georgia, they're scrolling their TikToks. They still have TikTok, but they may not be able to drive to the doctor's office. So, yeah, you can make an impact on a large amount of people in a very short amount of time, which is it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I had my parents visit here this past weekend, and even they would be like, I saw this thing on TikTok and whatever.
Yeah.
And is this true? And my mom actually recently told me she's going to do this like thing she saw on TikTok that like cleans your body out. She tells me. And I was like,
leave it to your kidneys.
I was like, what are you talking about? Cleans your body out, Mom? Please don't do that. And please talk to me about what you're doing before you do it. So it's just, I don't know, it's easy how like misinformation can get out there, but if leveraged correctly, it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. And like, I was that person, right? Like, even coming from a medical background family, before I started medical school and started learning all these things, I was your mom. Like, I was scrolling through TikTok and I'm the person who bought all this crazy stuff. Like, I did that. And now I'm like, wow, this is a place to go and like tell people, hey, you don't need to waste your money on this. Like, hold on for a second. So yeah, that's legit. It's so, yeah.
We can start kind of wrapping up here a little bit. You're probably enjoying your time off, but also excited to get back to school. Tell me a little bit kind of about like med school culture. Like, what are some of the biggest challenges you see with med school culture?
Oh, geez. I hate to hone in on the competitiveness because I will say that it's not nearly as bad as I thought. It's not nearly as bad as I thought. Yes, it exists, but I would not say it's to a point of toxicity. More so, the burnout is real, right? Like that's catching up to me. And that's like at the forefront of the culture right now. Like it's hitting everybody. That's so real. So like that's one that's not as bad as I thought it would be, and then one that is worse than I thought it would be. So I think that holding each other accountable and banding together has definitely happened, and I appreciate that, and I love that. Yeah. So yeah, the burnout is real, but it's something that we're learning to deal with, and I think that these breaks are nice, right? We have to take all of those moments and soak them up and use them wisely.
Yeah. And I feel like, unfortunately, just like, the pressure that you get early on of like, you got to do well on step, you got to like match to residency and whatever, like sets you up for that culture. And I mean, this could very much just be because I'm at the institution that I'm at and I have great co-interns, but now in residency, like it is so, I am looking out for my co-interns as much as possible. And it's really like, when we're around, I will try to do everything I can to help you because I know how rough that is. And we're like truly trauma bonding is a big thing you'll hear. And we are truly trauma bonding. I actually had a co-resident today who did have kind of a breakdown with just like a bunch of stuff that was going on. And it was just like everyone dropped everything to kind of help. And it's just like, I get it. Like, I know like how rough it is, and we want to kind of be there, and you're not on your own type of culture, which I would love med school to completely embody. I don't know if it ever will, but hopefully you surround yourself with people that's where they think.
Yeah, that's the key for sure. I agree. I would love to see that happen as well. And I think talking about it, just having these conversations, putting them out there, is important for people to hear, right? Like, it doesn't have to be so serious, right? Like, we can take a step back and like say, hey, we're all going through the same thing. It's cool. And two, you know what this reminds me of? Is one of your Substack posts that I read is celebrating everything, right? Like, we need to step back and do that, because we forget to do these things. We're told that, yeah, we got to pass step, we got to pass these tests, we got to do this. This is next. But I really appreciate that, and being reminded of that was really nice. It was really nice, and I celebrated the end of term 3 with a bang. So that was great, just because of your post, actually.
Amazing. I am glad that resonated with you very well, because that's something I definitely think back and reflect on. And it's something we do now so often in res, like even just like after rounds, like just going to one of our co-interns and being like, that was a really complex case and you killed the morning, or like that was a lot to take on and you're like holding it down really well. Just like small things we like to celebrate like that. I think it's a positive culture. So I'm glad you took that away. That means a lot.
For sure. And that's also another side of it too, like reminding your peers of this too. Like, hey, you did this. Let's go take a second and reflect and celebrate like we deserve it. So that's good too. Yeah. It doesn't just have to be for yourself. You can help other people around you too that way. For sure. I love that.
Yeah. Where do you think medicine is heading in the next 5 to 10 years?
Oh boy. I hope to see more personalized medicine. I think we're at a crossroads right now where there are so many advancements happening, and I love that. I think that's fantastic, especially in women's health. We're seeing advancements in fertility, and I love it. I think that's awesome. So I'm excited to sort of step into that. Now, me being from rural Georgia, I hope that the gap doesn't widen. Where in areas where there are a wealth of resources, I hope to see sort of some of this trickle down into rural areas, of course. But yeah, I'd love to see these advancements coming. I would love to see more personalized medicine, preventative medicine, these good things, hearing good things from doctors on TikTok instead of just random people who do not know what they're talking about, educated people who can sort of speak on these things and get us a step closer to taking care of ourselves earlier on would be great.
And I agree on, I think the importance of personalization is going to become more and more imminent, just because like, I feel like as we continue to evolve as a society, there's just so many factors that now contribute to health. Like, mental health due to social media was not a concern 20 years ago. And now it is a leading concern, especially in our kids that we see. And I feel like as things advance more, as AI advances more, being able to personalize to the patient, this patient has all of these factors that affect their health, is super important. So I agree with you. I really hope we are headed in that direction as well.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I'm sure I can not only imagine, that hasn't crossed my mind, especially with kids. Yeah, like social media, they do that. Like I didn't do that when I was a kid, so I'm sure I can only imagine the impacts that you see. Wow, that's like, now I'm going to think about that. That's wild.
Yeah. It is now September, and so I'm sure you could remember a year ago coming into kind of med school as an M1. There's probably a new fresh batch at your school of M1s coming in. What's the one piece of advice you'd give to M1s who just started?
Yeah, this is so exciting. I like thinking back on those days. Those were good days, fun days. And when it gets tough for me, I guess I sort of try and just think why I started and why I wanted to be there, because there are hard days and there are long days and there are days when you want to give up. But I think that if you just take a moment to reflect on why you went through it all, that should sort of wrap everything up in a bow and say, okay, I'm here and it's time to start back again and go for it. So yeah, just reflecting back on why you started is my best piece of advice.
Yeah. So being mindful, being thought.
Yeah. Yeah. Being
The
intentional. Yeah.
Yeah. The advice that I gave my sister, and I think we've talked about this too in the past, is I've always tell people to take everything you hear with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
Just because when I got into med school, I feel like there's so many voices saying you have to do this, you have to score like this, you have to like be this type of person, you have to do this. This should be on your application. This is unorthodox. I feel like I heard so much people say that. And
Mm-hmm.
I am like very stubborn, and for me, if I wanted to do things a certain way, like I was going to do it. And so I kind of just learned over time to, learn and get knowledge from people, but always take it with a grain of salt and be critical about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, like, you know yourself better than anybody, and you have the capacity to take information, triage information, and make those decisions for yourself. So that is a piece of advice that I give to kind of everyone. So for anyone listening.
That's fantastic. And I totally agree. I wish that you would have told me that my first day in medical school. I wouldn't be like thousands of more dollars in debt after buying every single resource that exists, because you don't have to do that either, right? Like that goes hand in hand with what you're saying. You don't have to listen to everything everybody says. It's not possible, right? It's not feasible.
And I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of that is from the notion of like, I just need to get everything correct from the go. Like, I need to make sure I have all these resources from the go. And no, you could try a resource and fail and learn from that resource and move on to another. And that's totally fine.
So true. So true. Yeah.
Mm.
I wish I could go back and follow that and know that every single person's path is different, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not going to be the same at all. It's just not. That's what makes it beautiful, right? That's what makes us different, and we can learn from each other in this way. So yeah, it's not supposed to be the same. Yeah, I love that. It's great. Take it with a grain of
Mhm.
salt.
Yeah. And speaking of taking with a grain of salt, as I was saying, Allie, you've been a Pulse pioneer with us, and you've been giving us a lot of feedback and a lot of things to take with a grain of salt, which, we appreciate. I'm just poking fun at you. How, curious, how, tell me about your experience with being a pioneer and kind of like how you think that's going to play a role for you or maybe other people in the future.
Well, I'm like totally obsessed with the app. I love it. I get women's health articles all the time. Some of the stuff that I've talked about, I've gotten from reading stuff in the app. I love it. I think it's fantastic. And one thing that I've been thinking about too is like almost, I don't know if there's a stigma with it. I know that there's a lot of anxiety and nerves like associated with just literally having conversation with your teacher or a physician, right? Like as a student, there's anxiety surrounding that. But I know that Pulse is creating this environment where that's what we're supposed to do, right? Like this is a place where we are supposed to make connections, and that like totally wipes out any of that anxiety or worry that would have been coming along with it. So I think that's great. And I know that's going to be extremely helpful as I enter into rotations in Georgia. I can't wait to use it. I can't wait to see what connections come to fruition. I think it's going to be fantastic. And I'm loving seeing all of the interaction that's already going on. Like people are loving this. All of the pioneers are awesome. It's been so cool to see so many people involved and want to help. So I think it's going to be great. I know I love to help. Obviously, I love to put my opinion in where it counts.
Amazing. We appreciate your opinion a lot. And it's interesting. Obviously, this was something that I helped start as a med student, and I was like very passionate about just like
That
the
is
topic.
insane. That's amazing. Like that is just that blows my mind. I don't know. It's incredible. It's awesome.
Thank you. But now in residency, one of the things that I'm realizing is how much of an art medicine is. And I say that because I am exposed to so many seniors and attendings. And the very cool thing about residency is you get to make a lot of your own decisions. And, there's a lot of times where I will talk to an attending and say, like, this is what I want to do. And they'll be like, okay. And I'll be like, like, cool, is that what you would do? And they'd be like, nope. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, can I do it? And they'd be like, yeah, it's your patient and you want to do that and that'll benefit them. Like, go for it. And it's like, from that, you learn like how stylistic medicine is, and how much of an art it is, and like how it differs from people to people, which is also why I think AI is not going to replace the touch of a physician. But again, that just comes from, just like you said, being exposed to talking from people and like gaining perspective from people.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
that's something I think about too, is like, yeah, there's not a formula for this. Like, this is what we're signing up to do is it's legit, and it can't be replaced with AI. There is no formula. And I love that you call it an art. I totally agree. I think that's so true. Yeah. And I think that's the only way we learn what works, right? Is to do it and try out different things. It doesn't have to be the same as what came before, because what you think of might be better. And I think that's a really, really good thing to have in mind. It's awesome.
Right. Last question for you to kind of close off. What is one thing you hope to achieve in the next year, whether it is in medicine or outside of medicine?
Well, I think that after having this conversation with you, at the forefront of my mind is now thinking of myself as a future physician rather than a student. So I think that in the next year, hopefully I will have that mindset even more so than I do now, because I'm definitely in that mode, right? Like, I'm in test mode right now. And hopefully in the next year, I'll be stepping into rotations and having that mindset of being a future physician. That's my number one goal. Yeah.
Amazing. I love that. Well, good luck to you. I am going to be following along with that and seeing how you're doing as well, hopefully throughout the process. But good luck. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your vacation to chat with me. It is an absolute pleasure, and I hope we get the chance to do it again. But thank you so much, Allie.
For sure. We got to circle back, Rush. Thank you.